Thank you. And again, welcome everyone. My name is Brendan. I prefer to do the sessions as interactively as possible. So that's why I want to utilize the chat feature. Then the first question I have for you, are you spending more for groceries? Is it costing you more for groceries than what it did, say a year ago? And how about gasoline? If you notice it's costing you more for gasoline, home heating oil. So if you've noticed a increase in the cost of living, we would simply type the letter C into the chat box to me. So again, and then we're seeing a lot of responses coming in. That's something that we can all relate to. Now, I've had the opportunity to work with individuals, to work with household over a number of years to help them gain control over their financial situation. And one of the things that I learned very early off a number of years ago was that if anyone stayed under financial stress for any length of time, it actually began to impact their physical health. And after I saw that correlation, actually I was able to get Virginia Tech to run some great studies and actually give us the correlation. So we can see if we stay under financial stress for any length of time, it does impact our physical health. So have you ever had this experience where you get to the end of the month and you have month left over and no money? So if this has happened to you, whether in the past or if you know of someone this has happened to, will you simply type the letter M into the chat box? So you get to the end of the month and find that you have month left over and there's no money. So if you've had that experience, again, we see that most of us at one time or another, that's something we have experienced. Now, what I would like you to do, if you're comfortable, will you kind of share with me, what is your thought process like? What are the thoughts that are going through your mind when you find you get to the end of the month and find you have month left over and there's no money? Again, there's no right or wrong answer here, but I want to learn from your experience. So kind of share with me, what are your thoughts like? Yeah, someone just used the word stress. A lot of people will share that with me. And sometimes people say, I just get so frustrated. I just wish, when is this ever going to end? So again, feel comfortable putting yes. Again, someone felt overwhelmed. Again, we get overwhelmed. That's the other thing that happens, panic, right? Again, we don't think as clearly as what we do is when we're not under stress. Someone shared concern, sad. And so many times people will share with me when I sit down initially and I ask them, okay, what is it that you would like to have accomplished? And a lot of times they'll say things, what? I just like to be able to have a sense of peace over my finances. So if that's something that you can relate to, if that's would be one of your goals, we simply type the letter P into the chat box. But so many people have shared with me, one of the things they would like to do would be just to be able to get to that end of the month and not have that stress and be able to get to the end of the month. And my goal is to get you so that you'll have money left over and there's no month. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from. Now, one of the things that I will share with you, and I've shared this with so many people throughout the years, roughly if you gave me 45 minutes, I could sit down with you and I could ask you some questions and I could develop a budget for you that would be in balance. You would have money going into savings every single pay period, and you'd end up with money left over in no month. But the problem with that's basically me doing a budget for you. You would look at that, there'd be things that you would agree with and probably things you wouldn't agree with. But one of the things I realized, I'm not doing the consumer a favor by actually doing them a budget or doing a budget for them. What I have found, what is more helpful is to be able to give you the tools to be able to empower you so that you take control over your own financial situation, that you're giving the tools so you can understand the thought process and make an informed decision as a consumer that's reflective of your goals, values, and objectives. And when you begin that process, what it's going to lead is basically getting you to the place that you're going to have a healthier attitude, not only towards money, but also to life in general. And again, there is a correlation between financial stress and physical health. And again, we're seeing that right across the board. And we're also seeing right across the board that people are on, some of it is due to finances, some of it's just due to the times we're living in, the times of uncertainty. And so that's why we want to get you to the place that we're going to give you the tools to be able to conquer those money fears that you may be having. One of the ways that we do that, and one of the to do is to have a household meeting where you're going to begin to discuss your goals, values, and objectives. So if this would be a new concept to you, where basically you're going to be able to, sit down in your household and to begin to discuss goals, values, and objectives. If that's something new to you, will you simply type the letter N into the chat box for me? So I just want to see where you're coming from. So again, one of the things I'm going to recommend you do is to begin to have these conversations in your household. Now, this may come as a surprise to you. Sometimes within a household, there's arguing about money, okay? So what I'm going to recommend you do is you begin this whole process of having these discussions. That what I want you to be able to do is, first of all, make it about goals, values, and objectives. And that will open the door for you to bring in the financial aspect. But don't initially make it about money, because sometimes we may have a difficult time communicating about money. And so that's why we want to make it about goals, values, and objectives first. So that basically brings us to the place that what we're going to look today, again, to be able to get you to do a realistic self-assessment, to be able to look at your personal history with money, to kind of take a look at maybe some of the different money personalities that are out there. So that brings about money and emotions. We're going to cover that. And then we want to get you to a place, again, where you're empowered to be able to make healthy decisions that are going to, again, not only have an impact on your financial health and well-being, but on your overall health and well-being. And so we'll be able to share those, kind of best practices, the things that I've seen that have worked well for individuals and households. And then I also want you to be able to have the opportunity to kind of share with me, what are the things that have worked out well for you? What are the things that haven't worked out well? Because I believe we can collaborate. We can all learn from each other's experience. Now, when you begin to have this, first of all, have this household meeting, again, if it's something new to you, then what I'm going to recommend you do is make sure you set aside a period of time where you're not going to be running off or concerned about, getting the children to this activity, or you've got a work project you're working on that needs your immediate attention, but simply within your household, you begin to discuss what are our goals, values, and objectives. That's the best place to begin. Now, if you have children, I actually recommend that you bring them into this conversation to the degree that they can understand what's going on. Because in the process, what you're actually doing for them, you're modeling a life skill that they're going to need themselves for later on in life. So again, as you go a little bit further, you get into it a little bit, and maybe the next question you begin to ask is, okay, did you grow up talking about money? And so if you feel comfortable, answer that. If this was something that you had household meetings growing up, or you talked about money or finances in your house, we simply type the letter Y into the chat box for me. If this wasn't anything that was talked, because a lot of times in households, it's one of the things we don't want to talk about. So if you didn't want to talk about it, then simply type the letter N into the chat box. Now, and I'm going to share with you what we've been able to identify, basically 4 different money personalities. And as someone just shared, live within your means was the only money talk I had growing up. So again, it's kind of mixed, but generally speaking, most of the responses coming in, money was something that was not talked about in your household. So it's sometimes when we see that money is sometimes used as a reward system, or it's used for approval, or sometimes people can use it as a way of control in the household. Someone just shared, or we have no money, so don't ask for anything, was the response. So one of the things that I have identified over the years is basically 4 different money types of personality. And I will share with you, you know what? There is not one of these that's all right, and there's not one of these that's all wrong. They're just different. The same way, we all have different personalities. If we all had the same personality, guess what? Life would be boring. So the 4 basic money personalities that we've identified, as I go through these, I want you to kind of let me know if this resonates with you, if this is either your personality or someone within your household has this personality. But the first money personality is what we refer to as the frugal spender. Now, the frugal spender, they like to budget. They like to have nice, neat categories, and they're not going to spend a dime unless it fits in within one of their categories or they've planned for that. So if you feel that you kind of have that money personality or someone in your household does, simply type the letter F into the chat box. Oh, I see a hand going up there. Awesome. Now, the next type of money personality, and again, I see I've got some frugal spenders here, is a resourceful consumer. Now, the philosophy of a resourceful consumer goes this way. They're either going to make it do or they're going to do without. That's their philosophy of spending money. So, for example, if I was to go into the home of a resourceful consumer, I would expect to find things fixed with duct tape. So basically, they're going to make it do or they're going to do without, unless it truly breaks down. That's their philosophy. So if you feel you're a resourceful consumer yourself, or if there's someone in your household, simply type the letter R into the chat box. Now, a lot of times what we see is sometimes we see people that are kind of a mixture of frugal spender and resourceful consumer. Sometimes we see that the two of these kind of go hand in hand. And then the next category is what we refer to as a status shopper. Now, the status shopper, they really enjoy the process of spending money, and they usually enjoy the process of buying things for other people. But we can also expect a status shopper to kind of like the name brands and also the kind of like to have the logos. So if someone in your household is a status shopper, simply type the letter S into the chat box for me. Then the last money personality is basically what we refer to as the carefree consumer. Now, the carefree consumer basically is going to, view it from the perspective that, if they get into trouble, there'll either be someone that can help assist them or maybe an organization that can kind of help bail them out. Now, again, not one of these is all right and not one of these is all wrong. They're just different. But for example, why this is important that you begin to identify within your own household what are the different money personalities is it helps to be able to get us all on the same page. For example, if someone came into my office and I saw that, as I began to talk to this couple, all of a sudden I realized they had a frugal spender, but I also had a carefree consumer within that household. I've got to be able to get them to come to a consensus. Otherwise, it's going to be fireworks in that house. So again, the key is to identify where everyone is coming from. And sometimes that's based upon, our own personal history and also what money means. Again, money means different things to different people. The same way if you ask those around you, what does money mean? You're going to see it means different things to different people. And let's just kind of run through that example right now. What does money mean to you? Someone just shared, S is my husband for sure. I find I hover between R and S. So again, we can be a combination of things. But when you hear the word money, what does that actually mean to you? So again, feel free, just kind of put it in the chat box. There's no right, there's no wrong answer here. Again, you mean what you're going to see. For example, to some people, it means security. For other people, it may mean power. For children, it may mean, a new game, and again, security, money, power, fuels to pay bills, food, shelter, necessity. But in reality, what I want you to understand, money is nothing more than a medium of exchange. And the reason why I want you to come to that conclusion is again, money's going to mean different things to different people. And sometimes within households, we begin to argue and we begin to fight about money. But the root issue, it's not the money, it's the attitude we have. That is what really brings all the stress into a household and into a relationship. So again, we see on the left what money means sometimes to people. Then we take a look at the list on the right-hand side of your screen. And again, these are some of the other things that it can mean to you as you begin to grow in your understanding. Again, to be able to have these household meetings. Someone just shared security, personal indulgence, within my means, and avoidance behavior. So again, it can mean different things to different people. Now we get to this next slide where we begin to talk about basically healthy versus unhealthy attitudes. So again, we want you to get to the place where you begin to put into practice good money management skills. For example, one question I have for you, and again, I want you to be honest with me, and I want everyone to respond to this question. Right now, I'm going to ask you, hey, how much money did you spend 3 weeks ago today? Can you give me an accurate answer? If you cannot give me an accurate answer, will you simply type the letter N into the chat box? So again, the first question is, okay, how much money did you spend 3 weeks ago today? And again, we see that most people can't. So my next follow-up question basically goes like this. If you and I, if we don't have good money management practices or skills in place, if we don't know where our money's being spent, dollar for dollar, category by category, will we ever be able to have control over our financial situation? And the answer is no. So that's why I'm going to ask you now to begin to make a commitment. And the reason why I want you to type it into the chat box is it helps to keep us accountable. These are the principles we found when we begin to type in and we begin to put our responses is we're more likely to get the change in financial behavior. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is make the commitment. And again, it doesn't matter to me whether you begin this January 1st, whether you begin it January 15th, but sometime in the near future, I want you to make the commitment that you're going to track every single dollar that is spent within your household for at least a period of 60 days. So if you're willing to do that so we can get the change in financial behavior, we simply type the number 60 into the chat box for me. So again, I know this is going to be difficult for some of you. It's going to basically take you out of your comfort zone, but I guarantee you it will be one of the best things you'll ever do with your finances. So we've got a ton of responses coming in, and I commend you for doing that. And again, the reason is you need to have accurate information in order for you to make an informed decision. And basically what we're going to do, we're going to use that budget simply as a roadmap to take you from where you are today so that you're able to achieve your goals, values, and objectives. And when we do that, you'll see that we begin to have the results of what you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen. You feel comfortable with your choices. You feel, again, it gives you that sense of control. It gives you the discipline. And you're not going to fall into the trap of having knee-jerk reactions. Because chances are, again, if you look over your life, and I can share with you from example myself, the times in life when I've had a knee-jerk reaction, guess what? It usually didn't work out right for me. And I guess if I sat down with each of you one-on-one, you'd probably share very similar things with me. So again, the goal is to get you to the place that's basically on that left-hand side of the screen. So again, the whole purpose of why we want you to begin to set up a budget, it's not so you pay your bills on time. The reason I want you to do a budget is in order for you to achieve your goals, values, and objectives. And when you do that, now you're able to take ownership over it. So again, that's why simple way of doing this is whenever you begin, I want you to take one envelope that everyone in your household who spends money is going to have one envelope. And anytime they make a purchase, you simply take the receipt, stick it in the envelope. Then at the end of the day, you take those receipts out of the envelope, and then you record it in the proper expense category. Now, there are also some great apps that would do this for you, but what I find when we actually begin to take that information and write it on paper with pen, there's something that it triggers in our brain. We get better results. We get the change in financial behavior that we're all looking for. So again, before you spend the money and, go through, again, ask yourself some questions. Do I really need this? Is this in keeping with my goals, values, and objectives? How am I going to feel after I buy it? How is it going to have, an effect on the relationships around me? And again, is this something I can truly afford? So again, we've got, and a number of you have some different apps that you use. Excellent. So again, if you have something that you have used that has helped you, simply put it right in the chat box. Other resources, mint.com, hallowallet.com, LearnVest, money.com, bankrate.com, and I'll also share with you FDIC's Money Smart is also another great resource for you to have. Someone just shared, I keep a spreadsheet that aligns with my checkbook, also my debit cards as well. So again, feel free to put those things into place. Now, as far as credit is concerned, if you have any questions concerning credit reports, credit scores, simply put them in the chat box, or I'll also, wait on the line at the end of the call to take any additional questions that you have. But again, make sure you're getting your credit report. Best place to get it is from annualcreditreport.com. And then know the factors that basically affect your credit score. There's 5 factors that affect your FICO credit score, and the FICO scoring model is the one that I want you to be familiar with, because that is the one that is used by over 90% of the lenders. So again, understand some of the different terms that are out there, and really make yourself, into the position that you're going to become a lifelong learner. That, at least a couple of times a month, you're going to learn new skills. So you're going to basically brush up on what's going on financially. And again, there are a ton of resources available. The other resource is through Anthem EAP, ton of resources available for you. So again, take advantage of those resources. Now, when we get to the area as far as, budget guidelines are concerned, this is what we refer to as, the meat versus the gravy, where the meat basically becomes more the necessities of life. So again, food, clothing, housing, transportation, those things that are necessary in order to keep our households functioning. And then we've got to put 10% is basically the principles of pay yourself first. We're going to put that into an emergency fund or some sort of savings fund. And then make sure you're taking advantage of any match savings programs that you have, for example, 401k, any sort of match. And then to also leave 10% for the fun of the gravy. Again, different things that you can do that basically you're going to enjoy, again, whether it's for recreation, hobbies, etc. But there's a number of things, again, just to have fun with. And that's why every budget has to have some sort of amount of money. Again, you determine what's in keeping with your goals, values, and objectives. That's going to come out of your household meetings. So right now, again, as we begin to wrap up, we do have the Anthem EAP website on the screen in front of you. Also the code SNHU, toll-free number 800-647-9151. Again, feel free, contact them. All the resources are available to you at no cost. Again, just a ton of resource available, whether it's articles, whether it's podcasts, different information, again, that you can simply go in and basically review, and again, help to position yourself as a lifelong learner. And then if you wanted to speak with a financial professional, again, the resources are available to you at no cost. So at this time, saved a couple of minutes at the end to take any additional questions or comments you have. Alicia, feel free, jump in with any comments that you have or questions. I'd love to hear from you. But one of the things as you begin to wrap up today, put something in the chat box that you're going to put into practice that's going to help you to really take control of your financial situation. So again, so it's going to lower your stress, and it's going to lead to overall health and wellness. And then any additional